Hi, gang. It's been a while, I know. I know most of you probably didn't expect to see me again, but like the bad penny, I keep turning up. Mostly when I don't expect it either. But in this little bit of shameless self promotion, the new book that I wrote about the Alice S. Wentworth project is out. It's published. It's on Sea-Watch Books. You can get it at seawatch.com. And the publisher of Sea-Watch Books, Mike Ellison, he and I did a podcast together. And that's what this video is all about. So sit back, relax, make some popcorn, check it out.
Welcome, everybody. Welcome back to the podcast. Happy to have you. I know it's been a few weeks, but we've been pretty busy here at Sea-Watch, so looking forward to get back into things. And this week, I welcome to the bridge Tom Lauria. Tom, many of you probably know him from his YouTube channel. That's actually how I first found out about him, and then had the pleasure to meet him a few years ago, and then talk him into writing a book, which his latest one you may know recently came out. Hopefully, doesn't show up too well with the virtual screen, but we'll talk about that in a little bit. Um, but anyway, Tom, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Michael. Good to see you.
Good to see you. I'd love to really learn a little bit about your background, how you came to become a professional ship modeler, what that entailed. I think many people who watch this, that's probably the dream job. Um, and I know, ironically, you and I went to the same high school, which is interesting. Maybe different years, but talk to a little bit about your background and sort of where you grew up and how you got to be here.
Okay, well, I live on Cape Cod now, but I'm originally a New Yorker, born in the Bronx on City Island. So when they brought me home from the hospital, I had the smell of salt water in my nose already, and I really couldn't lose it. When I was about 7, I started building models. I wanted to build airplane models. I started building airplane models. By the time I was about 9 or 10, it started drifting into shit. So I immediately started playing the bass because I really was impressed by Paul McCartney.
Mm-hmm.
So the ship modeling started to take a back seat. And, fortunately for me, I realized that I didn't have the talent to play professionally music, that is. And I played all my life, but not professionally, not at music. But by my mid 20s, I started ship model building from kids. And, I started getting interested in this. And I wanted to take it to just more than just buying a kit, putting all the parts together, and then moving on to the next kit, which is what a lot of people do. And for some reason, I didn't do that. So I started hanging out at Mystic Seaport. I actually went to Mystic Seaport when I was 10 years old, and it was a transformative experience. As a matter of fact, sidebar, in 2019, my son and daughter-in-law came with me to a trip to Mystic Seaport in Connecticut. And they said, Dad, we want to interview you. And I'm like, why? And they said, well, we think you've got a pretty interesting story to tell. So we're going to ask you a bunch of questions and you just answer. And we sat in one of the quieter rooms at Mystic Seaport, and they interviewed me. And they made a video of it. I was wondering what they were going to do with this. And then on Father's Day the next year, they presented me with this video that they had edited and put together and produced. And it's the best Father's Day card they ever got.
Yeah.
And, it's up on YouTube.
Yep. It's a great video. It was really, really interesting and well done.
Thank you. And thank you to my kids. So, anyhow, that explains a lot about my connection with Mystic and how important it was to me. When I started going to Mystic, as soon as I had my own car, I would go up there once or twice or three times a year. And during this one visit, I noticed that they had a ship model shop. And there was a guy in there, and he was building ship models. He was working on a beautiful ship model. And, he was behind like a gallery. So
Mhm.
he had the ship model shop, and then there was a small gallery where people could come in and stand and observe. And I started asking him questions. He stopped what he was doing and started answering all my questions in detail.
You were a teenager at this point?
I was about, I was in my early 20s. I was
Okay,
probably about 23, 22, something like that.
got it.
And so, well, his name is Wayne Quincy. Mr. Quincy, how do you do this? And how do you get your things to look like that? And I just, no matter what it was, he patiently answered all my questions. About 2 hours later, when I left, I had all of this new knowledge that I was itching to try out,
Hmm.
try it on, see if it fit. And sure enough, it did. And I noticed that from that one visit, my shipbuilding results changed from meh to, ooh, this is something a bit more.
Mm.
And I kept going back. And every time he was there, I had another 2 hours of questions to ask him. And to his credit, he answered them all.
Were you still on kits at this point, or?
I was, and I was beginning to get interested in um, scratch building because what would happen is a lot of the kits at that time, and I think still today, have pot metal fittings, just really awful lead-based alloys, and they're soft and they break and they're not very accurate. If you try and work them too much, they really don't hold up very well unless you're very, very patient, which I am not. And I was breaking. And the only alternative was to, again, this is back in the 1970s, so no internet, no computers. The only thing you could do is call up the company and order new parts if they would sell them to you.
Hmm.
So you had a lot of things going against you to try and replace these parts that you clumsily broke. Um, and I started making my own parts. And through all of the knowledge that I had gained from peppering Mr. Quincy with questions, I had the skills to replicate these parts, and they looked better than the kit supplied.
Yeah.
So that led me to think, well, if I can do this, why can't I just do the whole thing? And that started me scratch building.
Mm.
I built my last kit, something like 1977 or 78. I built my first scratch built model, stupidly, of the flying cloud. I couldn't have picked a rowboat, you know. So,
How'd that turn out?
well, I mean, by my standards today, it's bloody awful. But to me, it looked like, a Fabergé egg.
Right.
And so I was very proud of it. And I did notice that, even then, like I said, my level of workmanship was starting to climb up steadily. Uh, it made it clear that, you know, you're going to be serious about this. This is more than just a passing fad. And I started paying more and more attention to getting educated about it. Joined the Nautical Research Guild.
Hmm.
I went as into as many um, maritime museums as I could get to with my jalopy of a car. So New Bedford Whaling Museum. At the time, there was the Kendall Whaling Museum in, I forgot what town it was in. It was nowhere near water. I remember that. Um, in Boston, the Constitution Museum,
Right.
at the Navy Yard. Any place I could go, Mystic Seaport, out on Long Island. There are a couple of maritime museums out there. And South Street Seaport.
Yep.
still living in New York at the time. So this was, I mean, I was soaking it up like a sponge. Anything I could get my hands on, I would try and absorb and
Right.
put into practice.
And when did you start? When did you collect your first dollar from doing something for it rather than just yourself?
Hmm, that was around 1986.
Okay.
I decided that I had a job and I was working, and I did this on the side after work was over. And I decided that I would give it a shot, see what I could come up with if I contacted yacht clubs, historical associations, and small museums in and around the Westchester area, which is where I was living at the time. I was living in Yorktown in northern Westchester. And I got some response. I got some response from Larchmont Yacht Club down in southern Westchester, from the Austin Historical Society, who had a couple of really interesting small models that they had for a gazillion years, and they were in bad shape and wanted them to repair. So that was my first professional jobs with those two organizations.
Gotcha. And was it for commission of new models? Was it repair work?
The both the Austin Historical and the Larchmont Yacht Club were repair.
Okay.
Larchmont Yacht Club had probably a collection of about somewhere between 100 and 200 half-hull models.
Mm.
And they had many of them that were not out on display because in one way or another, they had come to grief. Somebody hit them with a chair, or, a well-meaning janitor slopped a bunch of spar varnish on them. Just any manner of ill treatment.
Right.
Not malicious ill treatment, just ill-advised. So these things came to grief, and he had a closet full of them. So I would go down to visit, and he would take me. This was the Commodore, a man named Vinny Montesanto. He was the Commodore at the time, and he would take me into this big closet that they had. He'd say, "All right, take 6 with you. Get them done. I'll give you another 6." And I thought I had died and went to heaven. This was my dream come true. I had heard that people could make a living out of this, but I had absolutely no clue as how to do it.
Right.
What was I was absolutely clueless. So Mr. Montesanto was definitely a godsend.
Right.
He guided me through getting my feet wet.
Okay. And when did were you able at some point to then quit your quote unquote real job and focus on this full time?
That didn't come until much, much later. Like I said, this was around 1986. My son was born in 1986. And so I had a full-time job. So I was a truck driver.
Okay.
I did a lot of things. I restored antiques. I restored, did a lot of furniture finishing, cabinet making, truck driving. You name it, I did it.
Yeah.
The only thing I don't think I did was play drums. Then,
Too busy playing bass.
but I played bass, so I was in the rhythm section. Anyhow, in 1987, we moved to Nantucket.
Okay.
And Nantucket was another big change, not only in geography and in social, society, cultural difference between New York and Nantucket, but also in the access you had to immediate historical resources. Nantucket Historical Association was at that point, they were a very grassroots type of thing. They were very involved with the immediate community. And they had a director at the time who had plans, and his plans for the museums on Nantucket involved community involvement, which was great. So they put out a call to model makers, all stripe, not just chip model makers, but if you worked with HO Railroad, if you built houses, doll houses, if you built cars or airplanes, any of that. He gathered all of these people up. He had this great vision to install in one of their facilities a diorama. They had mural painters involved. They had all kinds of lighting experts involved, and all of these model makers. They assembled them all, told them what the project was, and it was to recreate the town of Nantucket as it was in 1846. And then there was a great fire in the town of Nantucket in 1846, which wiped out most of the downtown area.
Mm-hmm.
And the diorama would reflect the pre-fire
Right.
town. And then they had animations and lighting and effects to show you what it looked like afterwards.
Oh, that's really cool.
And it was a wonderful project, and I got to meet some very important people. There was the director, Bruce. Oh my God, I haven't thought of his name in 30 years. Bruce Corson.
Okay.
He was the director at the time. This was his vision. He actually made it come to pass. I got introduced to a fellow named Colin Ray, who was another mentor of mine, right up there with William Quincy. I met a man named Charlie Sale, who I didn't know at the time how important Charlie Sale was going to become to me. But I was meeting all of these people and getting involved, and I was immersed in this world of recreating the past in miniature. And, Colin was building models for a shop on Nantucket. When his health started to fail and he couldn't do that anymore, he had the owner of the shop contact me.
Okay.
I took up where Colin left off. Over the years, Colin and I had quite a relationship, quite a good relationship. Like I say, he was an important mentor, taught me a lot. He was very generous with his knowledge, and he was a total character.
Yeah.
He was just wonderful. And I could tell you hours of stories about Colin alone, but I won't. Because it's probably better not done on a public forum. Anyhow.
So did that project finish?
It finished, and it opened the following season at the Thomas Mason Warehouse on Nantucket, which was one of Nantucket Historical Association's properties.
Okay.
They had done a museum type exhibit thing there, but nothing like this. This diorama wound up taking up about a quarter of the first floor of the warehouse.
Oh, wow.
And it had a lighting system and a sound system specifically for this. You pressed a button, and all of these things would light up in time to a narrated script that was playing over the loudspeakers.
Is this bigger than the diorama at Mystic?
It was about half that size.
Half that size. Okay.
But you're talking about the river.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was about half that.
Got it.
Roughly. And this is me recalling it now, 30 plus years away. But it was about that size, and it was pretty effective. And that stayed up for a number of years. But what it did was, like I said, it put me in contact with Charlie Sale and with Colin Ray. And it kept my fingers in the pot at Nantucket Historical.
Yep.
So, and it also led me to Bob Tonkin, who had this shop gallery on Nantucket, on Main Street.
Got it.
And, Bob would just order models from me. In December, he'd order half a dozen models. And then, as I got them done, I would deliver them to his shop, and they would be on display when he opened the shop in the springtime.
Oh, cool. All right.
So this really started, the whole building on commission, doing repair work.
Yep.
I was able to pretty much parlay that into a full-time gig.
That's great. And were you able to build anything on your own at this point, or?
Oh yeah, yeah. I was when I had time, I would build something that interested me. At the time, fortunately for me, I was interested in two subjects. They happened to be two subjects that Tonkin had in his shop all the time. One was a beetle whaleboat, and the other was a beetle catboat.
Hmm.
And beetle catboats, I had seen my first beetle catboat when I was down visiting Larchmont Yacht Club before I had moved to Nantucket. And I saw these. There's a place down there called Manor Park, and it's it's a small marina. And I saw these kids and their father sailing in this adorable little boat, 12 feet long, big sail, one single sail, and they were just giddy with excitement. I mean, they were giggling nonstop. They couldn't help themselves, just sailing back and forth.
Yeah.
They just sailed back and forth from one side to the other, and they couldn't be happier anywhere else on earth. And I thought, what a great little boat. If it could, this little tiny thing that was so plain and so functional and so uh, accessible could bring that much happiness,
Yeah.
that'd be a special boat.
Yeah.
And when I met Colin, he had a beetle cat.
Okay.
And I was at Colin's house one day, and I was looking through his portfolio, and I see he's got pictures of all the models he built. And he's got a beetle cat model. And I said, "Oh, beetle cats. I love beetle cats." And he says, "You do, huh?" I said, "Yeah." He says, "You want one?" And I said, "I don't have money to buy a boat." He goes, I'm not selling it." He says, "You can have it. If I ask for it back, give it back. If I don't, it's yours." So I did. That's how I wound up with a beetle catboat. And I started building models of beetle catboats because now I had one sitting in my driveway.
Oh, cool. All right.
Colin was also building models of beetle catboats, like I said, and selling them to Bob Tonkin.
Yeah.
The other thing that I was lucky about was Bob Tonkin liked beetle whaleboats. They were a very popular item for him to sell at his shop. One of the first scratch built models I built was a beetle whaleboat, and I had built it from plans that I got from Mystic Seaport and from an article in the Nautical Research Journal's um, shop modeler, shop notes for ship models,
Right.
first edition. And I built that model from that. And he says, "You know how to build those?" And I said, "Yeah, I built one a few years back." He goes, "Good. Give me 3 like this, 2 like that, and 1 like that. And the beetle catboats, I'll take 2 of those." So he would order these things from me. And then over the winter, I would build them.
Hmm.
And as I got them done, I would deliver them to the shop, and we would sell them the following season.
That's cool.
And then the pattern would just repeat.
Yeah. And was the whaleboat one of the, you did a YouTube series on the whaleboat? That was one of those, right?
That's a beetle catboat.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay.
Beetle whaleboat.
Whaleboat, yeah. Yeah, it's really, that was a impressive set of videos because it's not just, I mean, what I like about your work in particular is you just and with Alice we'll go into, I mean, you get into the weathering and the aging. It's not just like it's rolling off the timbers into the water for the first time. It's like it's been used. You sort of breathe life into it.
Thank you. It's one thing that I've tried to do throughout my modeling career. When I first started building, I tried to build everything pristine because that's what I saw.
Right.
Everybody was building that way. And I thought, well, this is the way the big boys do it. So I'm going to do it that way. And I saw, at a visit to Mystic somewhere in the mid 1990s, Mystic Seaport had a display of Eric A.R. Ronberg Jr.'s fishing schooner models.
Hmm.
They were all built to 3/8 of a foot. That's fairly large scale. These are fairly large models of fairly large ships. And they were absolutely stunning. They were the most stunning things I've ever seen. The only one who stunned me anymore was Rob Napier. But the thing that stunned me about Eric's building technique was that these looked like working craft.
Mm-hmm.
You could look at them and lose yourself in the detailing of the weathering and the wearing of the vessel. It all made sense. If there was a companionway ladder showing on it, there were scooped out parts of the treads where people would have climbed up and down. If there were traffic patterns, because everybody came out of the cabin one way and went around this because they had to, there were traffic patterns on the deck. There was wear and tear. You could almost smell the fish.
Right.
They were so realistic and lifelike. And when I saw that, it was a total inspiration. Why would anybody build any other way than to show a working craft? It's a working craft. It's not a yacht, which is what a lot, and you look at a lot of schooner models, a lot of fishing schooner models, and they all look like they should be moored at Newport.
Right.
That's not where they work.
Right.
They worked out on George's Bank or wherever. And they were used hard. They were driven hard.
Yeah.
And they were not always lovingly cared for. And that's what I tried to show with how does a whaleboat get used? It's brutal.
Yeah.
It's not expected to last the voyage.
Yeah.
And so it would show all the scars and all the beatings that it had to take. And
yeah,
that's what I try and show.
And if anyone on this watching this hasn't seen it yet, I'll link to it. But it's really good series to watch. So, well, let's turn our attention to Zeb and Alice S. Wentworth, because I know not just because of the book you wrote, but having talked with you about it over the past couple of years. I mean, I know it was a very big part of your life in a way, right? I mean, it just connected with you. So, how'd you talk to us how you discovered it? How how he and Alice kind of got their way under your skin?
Yeah, they really did. The very beginning, I had 2009. I had no idea. I had never heard of Alice S. Wentworth. And I was part of, and this is the book, it's the introduction in the book. I was at a reception for an exhibit that I was part of with, easily a dozen other model makers and artists at the Hyannis, at the Cape Cod Maritime Museum in Hyannis, Massachusetts. And at the opening reception, we're all standing around, and I was talking with Janet Preston, who was then the director and was responsible for this exhibit that I helped gather all the people for. And one of the other model makers, a fellow named Mark Sutherland. And the three of us are standing around, and Mark asks Janet, "So Janet, after this exhibit, what do you think your next project might be?" And she said, "Well, I was thinking an exhibit on coastal schooners would be nice, because there were so many of them around, and there's so much local history that can be explored." And she said, "Yeah, I think something like that." And Mark immediately pipes up with, "Well, an exhibit like that would have to include a model of Alice S. Wentworth." And without skipping a beat, she said, "Oh yeah, absolutely." I was saying, it goes without saying. I had no idea what they were talking. Yeah, sure. I had no idea what they were talking about. And mercifully, I managed to keep my ignorance concealed until the conversation drifted to other things. But I went home and I started looking on the internet, information on the Alice S. Wentworth. To this day, I'm still not certain why I did it. I mean, all he did was mention the name. Mm-hmm. Literally, all he did. And when he got the affirmation from Janet, "Oh yes, absolutely, there's got to be something to this." So I started looking, and I found a lot of information. And I got introduced to not only LSS Wentworth, but especially to Zeb Tilton of Martha's Vineyard. And I had no idea who this guy was, or why I would be interested in him. But I pressed on. And I started finding out about it. That was the main focus at first, just finding information on the vessel. That's all I wanted to do. I was going to see if this was going to be something I can actually, can I do this? Can I bring something with very little information, specific information on the vessel out of the past into the present in a 3D form and have it be relatively accurate? I had no idea what this was going to be. I started digging more and more. I found that there were plans available from Mystic Seaport, but for some reason, they were not selling them to the public. I later developed a hypothesis as to why they did that, but I didn't know that. Sometime after, as I started gathering information, there was a documentary, a film documentary produced by a small production company on the vineyard about Zeb Tilton and his time as master of Wentworth. And it was playing in a local movie theater about 5 minutes from my house. Well, I dashed over there as soon as I found out it was playing. And I was, watching. I wanted all this information. And they were mostly talking about Zeb. Yes, they were talking about LSS Wentworth, but it was mostly about Zeb and Zeb's family and his history with the island and all this other stuff. And I'm becoming more interested when I'm still looking for ship guy stuff, ship mobile guy stuff.
Right.
And about 20 minutes in, they showed this guy standing in front of the drafting table with the plans for LSS Wentworth on the table. And I was like, oh, where is this guy? Who is he? And they didn't identify him. And I couldn't identify him from the credits because I didn't know who he was, how he fit in.
Yeah.
So I got in touch with the producers and asked them, told them who I was, what I was looking to do, and would they be kind enough to pass my contact info to this guy with the plans? And they said they would. A couple of days later, the guy writes to me and says, "Yeah, I'll sell you the plans." And I was like, "Excellent. Oh, this is great." So a couple of days go by, and the tube shows up with the plans. And it has not only one set of plans, but it has two sets of plans. And it has a third thing, some Xerox copies of handwritten sheets of data with all of these measurements and notes and very crude drawings of things aboard LSS Wentworth. And at the top of one of these sheets was the title page in this. There were two notebooks. And when I say notebooks, I'm talking about the old composition notebooks that you get in school.
Yep.
You had two of these, and across the top of one was written Charlie Sale Notebook, LSS Wentworth, 1936. I was flabbergasted. This gave me not only primary source info, but a specific date. Now I had a target date for my model. I was going to build it as she looked in 1936, not 1905, not 1891, not 1964. No, this was going to be 1936. It was going to be based on Charlie's notes. And he had everything in there with just a few exceptions. And then I realized this is the same Charlie Sale I knew on Nantucket.
That's amazing.
He had never mentioned it once in the few times that I had been with him and been in his shop while he's showing me all of this maritime memorabilia that he had in the shop. He never once mentioned LSS Wentworth. So again, I had no idea who he was and how important his connection to me would become.
Was he still alive at this point?
Not in 2010. He died, I think, I don't remember the date. I don't want to give you one, so I won't say anything.
Okay.
He was long gone by the time I became interested in it.
Got it.
But in any event, so these books had all of this information, and I had it. that tied with the two sets of plans, I was able to compare Charlie's notes to the two sets of plans and decide to build the model by whose plans came closest to the primary sources.
Yep.
Turned out to be the plans drawn at Mystic Seaport.
Okay.
The Mystic Seaport plans were what I used for the hull, and by and large, the spacing of everything that you saw on the model for the space between the masts, the space between the mast and the forehatch, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
That was all based on Charlie's firsthand notes because he had it all notated.
Right, right. That's great.
Center of the foremast, front edge of the foredge of the forehatch. 18 feet, 3.5 inches.
Why do you think he took these notes?
Well, Charlie was a talented model.
Ah, okay.
And he also, I hypothesize about this in the book, and it's totally my idea. I mean, if I were Charlie and I tried to put myself in his head, what would I be thinking? He went to sea when he was 16. So he had been a salt right from the time he was 16 years old. And ships were everything to him.
Mm-hmm.
Ships, boats. He was a boat builder. He built his own boats. Some of his boats are still sailing around on Nantucket. And he was an historian too. I mean, in his shop, he had architects' files, several of them, and they were filled. Every drawer you opened was filled with antique newspapers from the 20s and 30s that had all of the local shipping news. He had pieces of the whaling ship Wanderer, which had wrecked off Cutty Hunk Island. He went out and salvaged pieces of it. He had little, fretwork grills for air ventilation that were from the Wanderer.
Oh, wow.
That squirreled away everything. He did not throw away anything. And I think what he did was, I found out later that he did this not only for LSS Wentworth, but any vessel he could get close enough contact to, he would measure and notate. And I found an audio recording, an oral history that was done by the students of Nantucket High School back in the late 80s, early 90s. I found one of Charlie Sale talking about his time on the coal ships of Great Lakes, the Grand Bank schooners out of Gloucester, and about life on Nantucket. And he mentioned these books in that audio file. He said, sadly, they were all lost. And I said, well, how lucky am I
Yeah.
that this particular one shows up out of all that were there.
Yeah.
This one particular one, of particular interest to me, shows up at a time when I need it. That was a bit more than just random synchronicity.
Yeah, it's Neptune kind of getting pulling the strings, I think, a little bit for you.
Yeah, it could have been. So,
and I know you go into a lot about it in the book, so I don't want to spoil that, but tell us a little bit about Zeb and kind of what he meant to you after you sort of did a lot of research on him, because clearly he had an impact.
Zeb, the thumbnail version is Zeb's family was on the island from 1669 until today. They've never left. I mean, branches of it have. There are branches of it all over southern Massachusetts, probably greater New England as well. But a lot of the family stayed on Martha's Vineyard. He was born there in 1866 and went to sea at, let me back up a bit. He was one of eight kids. He was the middle child. He had 6 brothers, he and his sister. He was right in the middle. And he was the biggest. They were all big men, all over 6 feet, but he was the biggest, the strongest. And Some say he was also the smartest. He had a photographic memory. He had supernatural strength, and I don't say that as a figure of speech. I
Right.
mean it literally. His strength was supernatural. Um, Alice S. Wentworth carried two anchors, one that weighed 400 pounds and one that weighed 600 pounds. He could toss both of those over the side without using a tackle. He would pick them up and throw them over.
That's insane.
That's just that gives you some example of the physical strength that this man possessed. Um, and that allowed him to do things that other people just couldn't keep up with.
Mm-hmm.
He could work like nobody else. When he was 14, 15 years old, he was working at a clay factory on the island, brickworks. And he was out working men twice his age at 14 years old. He was doing twice as much work. And this continued all throughout his life. He could do things single-handedly that people could only dream about.
Yeah.
This was a facet that people love to talk about when they talk about Zeb, and with good reasons. It's an amazing thing. And like I said, he also had photographic memory. He also he went to sea when he was 16 with a schooner out of Vineyard Haven, and the captain was Captain Josiah Cleveland. And Josiah worked the schooner with his son Ben and with Zeb. And Zeb, like I said, 16 years old, total green hand, didn't know one end of the line from the other. But Captain Cleveland took him on and showed him everything. Everything that Captain Cleveland showed him, Zeb remembered. And they stayed together, working together, the three of them, for 20 years until
Right.
Zeb got his own ship. So Zeb started making his own way as a coasting schooner captain, and he was very good at it. And a lot of it had to do with what Captain Cleveland showed him and his own natural abilities to be able to outsail anybody and get his cargo where it needed to go, either on time or ahead of schedule, and in an undamaged condition.
Yep.
Both very important things. So he had a first-rate. He built over the years a first-rate reputation.
Yeah. Yeah. And you talk very nicely about it in the book, and I want people to read the book, but you talk the symbiotic relationship between Alice and Zeb too. It's kind of a neat history, neat story in the way you package it.
Zeb first sees Alice when he's on his own schooner and he's sailing into Portland, Maine. He's sailing in there because he's got to go to Lincolnville the next day, but he got as far as Portland for the night. So he's sailing into the harbor, and the schooner just kind of shoots right by him, like he's standing still. Zeb looked at it. I got to find out about this. So as soon as he got into the harbor, he secures his vessel, lowers his dory, and goes rowing around the harbor looking for this beautiful schooner that's so easily outsailed him. And so he's rowing around the boat. He finds it, and he starts rowing and rowing. He's just rowing around in circles. And Captain Stevens, the captain of Alice S. Wentworth, is on deck, and he's looking at this stranger rowing around the ship. He says, "Can I help you?" And Zeb, introduces himself, and Captain Stevens invites him on board, and he shows him around. And the two of them got to talking, and they talked all night long. The next morning, Zeb had to leave, but he still can't get Alice out of his mind. Alice was, this was in 1906. Alice S. Wentworth was rebuilt in 1905.
Okay.
So she was barely a year out of dry dock. She must have looked gorgeous. Fresh paint, fresh sails. I mean, everything just beautiful. He couldn't forget it. A couple of years later, he finds out that Captain Stevens is actually in the market for a captain to sail Wentworth for him. Zeb immediately decides to go to work for Captain Stevens. And he sails Wentworth, and for 2 years, they sailed up and down the Maine coast, just plying the coastwise trade, just like every other, you know, 60 or 80-ton schooner. But two of them were like, they were two halves of a whole.
Right.
They were seriously meant for each other in the most intuitive and instinctive way. Zeb knew exactly what to do with Alice, and Alice just complied because they were the fastest, they were the neatest, they were the most efficient of a team. They were like two parts of this. They were, each was incomplete without the other.
Right. Right.
Um, and the two of them were able to uh, sail so efficiently that everybody else took notice of this. I mean, the coastwide trade had literally thousands of schooners. They were basically the 19th and early 20th century equivalent to tractor trailers.
Right.
Everything that moved by coasting schooner. So in this huge arena of nameless ships, these two stood out like a neon light among their peers and among the greater general population as well. So, because of everything that they did together, there was never a problem with getting a cargo, getting it to where it had to go, and getting back with another cargo.
Yeah.
Went together.
Like BJ and the Bear.
I've never actually seen it, but I'll take your word for it.
So let me ask you that. We probably need to wrap up a little bit, but first, I love the book. Like, what would you like people to get out of it when they read through this?
I think, you know, if you ask, and I'll try and make this brief, like everything else. If you ask any group of model makers what inspires them to build a model of a ship, you'll probably, if you had 20 of them, you'd get 20 different answers, 20 different reasons. For me, there's a certain amount of charm that a ship has all by itself. People tend to look at ships and trucks and locomotives and all of these other things as large inanimate objects, but they are not. They have their own vibration, their own. It's hard to express, but they have their own personalities in a way, and the ship might be enough of a character, as Alice S. Wentworth is, to carry that alone without getting involved in the people that sailed the ship, worked the ship, repaired the ship. But because the connection between the ship and the people, not only Zeb, but Charlie Sale, Zeb's nephews, grandsons, his daughter, and all the people, the Stevens family before Zeb. All of these people had more than a passing interest in the well-being of this ship because they were dependent on the ship for their livelihood. They literally would not have food if they didn't have this ship. It becomes very important to them. It's integral. It's part of their, I won't say part of their DNA, but it's that close kind of thing. And what I'd like people to understand is that it's not just the ship that interests people to build these replicas.
Yeah.
It's very often the stories behind it that infuse the life into the seemingly inanimate object.
Yeah. I think that's great point.
And
I
that's
think
basically what I want people to realize is that it's not just one way.
yeah. Yeah.
There's something more to it.
And I think too, it also speaks, given that, I think it speaks to the importance of research, doing the research on your subject. It's one thing to just, all right, I got a set of plans, I'm going to build this model now, but to research it, to be able to, because there's so much more beyond just the plans.
It is. And, and the one thing that I hadn't even mentioned was if for no other reason, if Zeb never existed, Alice S. Wentworth would still be important because she was the last exclusively sail-powered vessel working
Mm.
in New England waters and possibly the entire eastern seaboard.
Oh, wow.
She carried freight until 1943, and then she was sold down east. And then by 1951, she'd become a dude sail, still paying her own way, but not freighting. But she was the last commercial freight carrying schooner in these waters. So for
Interesting.
that alone,
Yeah, that's got some historic significance to it.
exactly.
And where's the model now?
The model is in the possession of the Nantucket Historical Association.
Mm.
And I'm very happy about that because there are only really three places I would have loved to have seen that model go. One was to Zeb's descendants,
Mhm.
or to the Martha's Vineyard Museum, or to Nantucket Museum, Nantucket Historical Association. And the, one of the curators there, Mike Harrison, was instrumental in getting the project of buying the model for the museum.
Mm.
And it's wonderful that it ended up there because Charlie Sale lived on Nantucket from
Yeah.
1930 until he died in 1994. I just remembered.
And is it on display? Can we see it?
It's not on display yet, but I just found out today that there's going to be a renovation of the Great Hall in the Nantucket Whaling Museum.
Mhm.
And that's going to be in the hall.
Oh, great.
So probably within about a year or so.
Okay.
But right now it's at their storage, their environmentally contained storage system.
Yeah. Excellent. Well, listen, Tom, this has been great. Really appreciate you joining us. Kind of what's next for you? Are you still taking commissions? What's going
I
on?
am, but I'm purposefully slowing down
Mhm.
with active work. Right now, let me, um, yeah, I'm just taking I'm in a position now where I can take stuff that I can look at it and go,
Be a little
like it's
choosy.
going to be fun,
Right.
you know?
You working
So
on anything now?
I just started a Great South Bay catboat,
Hmm.
which is a beautiful uh, boat. These were mostly made for working,
Mm.
but they have an elegance to them. And when I think people discovered them, they started building them in a more yacht-like fashion,
Mm.
a little bit nicer finish on the fit and finish on the insides, but they're very graceful, very they're just elegant looking.
Mm.
And for a working boat, that's not two things you usually,
Right.
you know, elegant, working.
Right, right. Well,
But
keep us
this,
posted on that, how that's going.
yeah, I will. And you'll see pictures of it when it's done.
Awesome. Well, listen, thank you very much for your time. This is great. If you haven't yet, go out and get Alice S. Wentworth book on Sea Watch. And I love it. It's great, and I appreciate Tom. You let me pester you into writing it, and I hope he enjoys it. And thanks for joining us, and thanks everyone.
Thanks for having me, Michael.
Excellent.
Take care.
Bye.